are there big differences between like rural flight transport and like city flight transport?
One of my coworkers used to work in Chicago. And so he worked on a helicopter kind of in just the Chicago metro area. And it was a lot of, interfacility transport. Very short hops from, they were stabilized at kind of like this suburban hospital, but they need to go to the main trauma center. And like that, that might be like a short mileage, but city traffic, that might take you like 2 hours or something.
Right. Yeah.
Versus a 5-minute helicopter ride.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
Yeah. And then like rural, like one of the companies that works within Washington State also works in Alaska. And so they have like Lear jets that they'll, come down from
oh my gosh.
Alaska and bring people into Seattle.
That's badass.
I can't imagine that, Bill, but
flight nurses are such badass nurses. And at least in my mind, they're such badass nurses because I feel like you're performing at the top of your license. You're autonomous, it's fast paced. I mean, is that you get to be in a plane all day? Like, do you think that's pretty accurate? Or do you feel like there's some like expectation versus reality, like component of flight nursing?
Yeah, 1,000,000%. And I think you and I kind of mentioned, or I mentioned this, in a previous conversation, that getting into flight nursing has been, it's definitely different than what I thought it was. And, still very much love the role, love my company, and I'm so grateful to be a part of it. But yeah, in your mind, you kind of have this picture of like, oh, this badass flight nurse just like running around all day. And certainly I think for some companies, that's the case. We just had a new paramedic join us, and he came from a flight agency where it was nonstop. They were flying nonstop because the area of the country that he worked in was near a Native American reservation that had been hit really, really hard with COVID. And not only that, but just kind of an unhealthy population and very, very, very limited healthcare. And so they were having to constantly take folks from these super rural critical access facilities and get them down to the big city. And, flight nurse or flight medicine, you're regulated in terms of like how long you can go before you have to stop, you are grounded, and you have to sleep. And so for them in a 24-hour period, they could go for 16 hours and then they had to stop and rest for 8 hours. Yeah. And he was like, that was your day. You would fly for 16 hours, then be grounded, sleep for 8. And the moment you're back in service, your pager's going off. And so really, I think just depends on your company.
Where you're at, location.
For us, I mean, we really only service like a small chain of islands. It's one county. We have maybe like 18,000 permanent residents. And I mean, like even in the county, because we can hear county fire and EMS dispatch. There might not even be like a 911 call for a whole day. And so, in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm going to be running all day and doing all this crazy stuff and intubating people and using, like you said, practicing at the top of my scope. And that's not always the case. Which at least, for me in this role, I'm okay with. And you do a lot of kind of independent guided training. Training with your partners, training with your medical program director will come out, teach skills.
Cool.
Yeah. So
you have to be very like comfortable and trusting and close with your team, I imagine.
Yes.
Yeah.